KUAM News Hotspot is brought to you by
Pacific Points, Do More, Get More, and Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
The Menu, brought to you by King's Restaurant, always open, always local, and Ruby Tuesday Guam, home of the Fresh Garden Bar.
Off day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Hub. I'm Nestor Licanto. This week, we're going to talk with our new Congressman-elect, two-term Guam Senator Jim Moylan. Two-term local Senator James Camacho Moylan is making the leap to the Big House, the U.S. House of Representatives. He will be sworn in on January 3rd as just the sixth person to represent Guam in Congress and only the second Republican. Because of Guam's time difference, Moylan was celebrated by fellow Republicans in Washington as the first of what was supposed to be a red wave of GOP candidates who would overwhelm the House and take back the Senate. That big wave was more of a ripple, as heading into the 118th Congress, Democrats still control the Senate, and Republicans in the House have a much narrower majority than expected, 222 to 213. Also, the leading candidate to replace Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, Congressman Kevin McCarthy of California, faces an even slimmer margin. He needs 218 votes to win the speakership, but faces opposition from the right wing of his party. That means he may need some Democrat help to take the gavel. All right, and we're joined now by Congressman-elect Jim Moylan. Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Welcome, Huffaday Guam. Good to be home. Had some exciting last few weeks.
Absolutely. You've come a long way. Less than 4 years ago, you were sworn in as a Guam senator. In a few weeks, you're going to be sworn in as a U.S. Congressman. Has it sunk in yet?
It has not sunk in. Our office has been busy since the day after the election. We received a prior notification from Congress prior to the election to say, what's your email address and contact information? And then shortly thereafter, after the win, they contacted us and said, get out here by Monday. So the new member orientation started then. There were 74 new seats into Congress, which is the 118th Congress. So from that day forward, for that whole week, we were busy getting all our briefing books, manuals, and everything. So to answer your question, no, we've been so busy, it hasn't really sunk in. What has sunk in since it's December is this cold weather into your bones, but it's okay. I'm getting used to that.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the orientation process. What stood out for you?
So they do this for all the new senators that come on out. And there's a lot of history that goes about in these classes that they provide. It's called the Congressional Staff Academy. Some members, some new congressional seats there have prior legislative experience. Some have none at all. And what it really does, it shows what the Capitol does in services for Congress, all the support that they provide. Legal advice, IT advice, ethics advice, federal guidance on employees, from A to Z to run your office properly, to even set it up correctly to your office in DC and your district office as well. So they just take their time. They give you, as I mentioned, all these different books. They provide you with your laptop, your notebook, and your cell phone also. And they give you the threat briefings, the intelligence briefings, the PSYOP briefings, and so forth. It's so much information. But at the end of the day, they're also letting you know, we know it's a lot to absorb. However, you just need to know we're only a phone call away or a click away, and this is how you get to us. So it was an introduction to that, which I think is very helpful. I think that will be a great also for the Guam legislature to emulate, to copy something like that as well. A new member orientation for the 37th Guam legislature, I think I believe would be very helpful. But I'm excited, and the main goal that these training sessions happen is because they want you to get to work on January 3rd after you swear in. So
get right, hit the ground running. Have you had a chance to meet with the gentleman you're replacing, Congressman Michael Nicholas? Because I know you had a pretty close relation with Congressman Nicholas even during your campaign.
Yes, we have, and his staff also, to ensure that the transition happens, and that it is. And we have a few phone calls also while he was visiting Guam and in DC too. But his staff has been assisting us to move things forward. Not only Congressman Mike Nicholas, but also Congresswoman Madeline Berdallo, who called me the day after the win here on Guam, and she says, Jim, I want you to meet my friend Joe Wilson, Congressman Joe Wilson. He's on the Armed Services Committee, right? You need to meet him, and he's going to introduce you to a whole bunch of people. I did meet him and had several days with him. And as we're going down the tunnels in DC and going to our briefings at the auditoriums, he's introducing me to many senior congressional folks, and which is important to get a good word in. So when you ask to be part of those committees that you really want to be with for the island of Guam, they already had a warm introduction. You're not somebody just off the street, but you're somebody who knows Joe Wilson. So that is very, very helpful.
And Joe Wilson, for those who may not know, is a Republican congressman, and he's famous for shouting out that you lie during an Obama speech in the Congress, right?
He is a character, and he got me into the session where the speaker, Nancy Pelosi, was giving her farewell speech. I was just a couple of seats away from that to observe part of history being made. And one thing the Academy also shared with us, there's less than 11,500 folks that have held the seat in the US Congress. So though our country is owed, our nation is owed, still the amount of folks that held this seat is a small portion compared to the population of the United States of America. So what an honor, and that I'm privileged to serve the island of Guam.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break, but we'll definitely be back with more of our discussion with Congressman-elect Jim Moylan right after this. Okay, and we are back with our discussion with Congressman-elect Jim Moylan. Jim, I wanted to ask you, so while the Republicans regained control of the House, it wasn't the red wave that everyone, including yourself, was expecting. What do you think happened there?
Interesting. Of course, our election was the first election announced, right? Guam first out of the gate. And it started with, which was good for the Republican Party since the Republican for Guam won. And that made national headlines on CNN and Fox and this TikTok and everything like that. So by the time I got to DC, they said, hey, you're the start. You're the red wave start. So we had great hope, right? We were excited. So I can't say it's dark red. It's a shade of red, but we are still in control. Speaker McCarthy, who we nominated in our meetings, and now we just had to get to session floor to have that official on the 3rd after we're sworn on in for that vote, should be our leader, right? And Kevin McCarthy. And that would take us, the important thing is when we have control, though a small margin, it's still control. So we're in charge of the committees. In my experience in the 35th and the 36th, if you're not in charge of the committees, you're minority. Yeah, good luck to you. So that's the important part. And I think that's very helpful that Guam has a Republican representative, so I can get into these committees with more seats available. Now that the Republicans are in control, we have more seats available for members of the Republican Party. So I still look at it as a win. I wish it was dark red, but it's not. And now it's up for us in the 118th Congress to perform at a level that the nation sees we need more people like these guys in there. So that's where we had to shine during this time. And likewise, I I plan to do really good work on the first days coming on out of the gate here. And we've been making the relationships that are important for us to make that happen.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the committees that you want to get on and the relationships that you want to establish. But you mentioned Speaker McCarthy and you called him Speaker, but what I'm hearing out of Congress is that he might be challenged in terms of his speakership. There is a faction to the far right of the Republican Party that I understand is against him, and that he needs to kind of shore up his support before he actually does become speaker. And there's even some speculation that the speaker could come from outside of the political realm. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, it's making the news, right? It's always exciting to hear any conflict going on, and especially with the Republican Party now taking over and having little issues too. But I can see that happening in either party. There's always somebody that thinks otherwise than the majority. I don't think the minority within the conversation of, if it's not Kevin McCarthy, who else would it be? I don't think it's that high as it seems, the media seems to put it out there. And I do believe the votes are still there. You want to go with the winning team, and if the majority is going for Kevin McCarthy, you don't want to be on the side that says, I didn't vote for you, because you want to get on your committees, right? You want to be on the winning team. So their voices were shared, their concern was shared, but overall, the party has selected Kevin McCarthy. Now we just need to get in there, and of course need the minorities vote too. And they likewise, they would see we had the power, and I still think he's a win. But of course, you don't know until you finally that day. But yes, in the law, there's nothing to say that it has to be a member of Congress to be the speaker as well. Some of the history that's being shared, but that's kind of way out there for that to happen. And I don't see the Democrat Party looking at that to become true. I think Kevin McCarthy has the ability to to negotiate with the minority party, and he seems to done that well in several of our meetings and discussions that we had on different rules and regulations for our SOPs and how we're going to run the session during session time. So there's good conversation that I've been seeing from our Republican Party, and the lines go left and right in the auditorium, and as people come and speak on different amendments that they want to make to our rules, it's very interesting to see where they come from and how they present themselves. And what I'm hearing, and eventually, Nestor, when I'm on the air with you, I'll be saying you all. I don't know why everybody says you all over there. What is this you all?
Yeah, you're getting an early look at the House horse trading in Congress. Anything different than what you went through here in Guam?
The support is tremendous, and because this is the federal government's budget, and I wish the government of Guam, we should look at something. And I had tried in the 35th and the 36th to make Congress building employees permanent employees, not appointed by members of the Senate at that time, but just GG1 employees permanently there, and they can set up something similar to welcome new members to Guam Senate, right? This is so they can understand the rules, the Roberts rules, and we had that also in Congress and parliamentary procedures too. To understand the system is important, to understand the history is important for the nation, and likewise for our island as well. So these are some of the things I can probably share with the new legislatures that they may want to consider to make our Congress building here, their staff permanent employees instead of being part of the minority or majority senators in-house, because it's very helpful.
You mentioned armed services as one of the committees that you want to get on, which is traditionally what the Guam delegate wants to get on because of our situation with the military here in Guam. Talk about why you want to get on that committee, and also what other committees you're interested in.
Well, we asked for the highest things, and it was appropriation with the military contracts. So of course, appropriation would be like our BBMR or OFB. It's where the money's at. And we know here on Guam, the next 10, 15 years, this buildup continues, and there's no place in the nation that so much money is being spent than there it is in Guam for the national defense of the island and for the nation as well. So for the federal government side, as a member of Congress, I'm the eyes, their eyes, right? And I can monitor, I can see how things are progressing. I had the ability living here to talk with Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholson or the Brigadier General of the Air Force there, or Naval Hospital, whatever the situation, or if the administration has some issues, I can call it, we can have a meeting with the governor, or Senate has some questions, we can talk to the Senate as well. So in the door, and plus I'm prior service, so and Republican. So, it just all makes total sense. So it will be very helpful for the senior members of Congress in charge of these committees, if they know they can trust their delegate to Guam, that why not put us there? And we can really communicate well. If not the Appropriations Committee, then Armed Services with, again, one of the subcommittee groups, which Congresswoman Madeline Berdallo was very helpful in introducing me to several members of that too. Homeland Security possibly as well, Agriculture possibly as well. And then you just go down from there. But we asked for some big committees. And a good selling point is that we were first out the door again, announcing that Guam took a Republican seat that hasn't been held in the last 30 years by a Republican. And so it got us a little bit more recognition when we got to Guam, or when we got to DC. Hey, you're the guy, you're the first one out the door. He started it. And I go, yeah, and I go, what happened to the rest of you guys, man? Golly.
Yeah, you're only the second Republican actually delegate from Guam since General Ben Blas. So yeah, congratulations to you. I wanted to ask you, you were an active member of the Guam Chamber before you became a Guam senator, and the Chamber sends every year a committee from the, I think, Military Affairs Committee. I'm not sure exactly what the name is, but they go to Congress to lobby and to express Guam's, aspirations and relationship with the military. Are you going to rely heavily on your former colleagues from the Chamber and that committee specifically?
Yes. In fact, I believe Phil Santos from MATS's is now head of that committee. Yesterday, I had a meeting with Joe Arnett also. I believe they're looking at springtime. So we're coordinating it already, right? And my duty will be ensuring that those that they want to meet, that I can schedule those meetings for chamber members to come on over, the Armed Services Committee from Guam Chambers to come on over and have those appointments made, in addition to whoever else I could recommend to them for them to meet. They'll also have meetings at the Pentagon as well. So they've been very helpful for the many years that the Guam Chamber has been doing this to ensure that the buildup is done properly and to build the economy of Guam. And yes, it's my, I told the Guam Chamber I'm looking forward to providing that assistance and walking them through. And of course, we want to ensure that the national defense budget includes territory of Guam, right? So that's so big, and whatever issues that we're missing, and what the important part is that the chamber, speaking for the business folks of Guam, and probably depending on the governor, most likely will be in favor of their stance, is showing that we have unity. And once we can bring that to the committees and the armed services, that the island has unity to accept responsible buildup, then we got a green light. And enforcing that with congressional duties, it's important. So I've already met with them, and I'm looking forward to making this happen.
All right, we've got to take another short break, but we'll be back with our discussion with Congressman-elect Jim Moylan right after this. All right, we are back from our break. Jim, I wanted to also ask you about dealing with the Biden administration, which will be still in power while you are in your first term. How will you deal with that situation? A Republican freshman congressman and the Democratic president of the United States and his administration.
Well, I think the Biden administration sees the importance. I don't believe there should be any cuts in the military buildup in Guam. The threat from China and North Korea and the protection of Taiwan is still important, I believe, to the current president. So I don't see cuts on that side. The Republican Party may be looking at other things on the size of the federal government too, which they always do, but cutting the military budget won't be happening on the Republican side as well. So I'm for, at least for our territory of Guam, I feel very confident that this will continue to go on as long as we have the support and the workers to complete the project in the time frame that's necessary. We may need to increase our workforce, and that's something I could assist with, because if we don't make these deadlines, that's we don't want to skip it. We don't want to miss that opportunity. But of course, I'm the president, sitting Democrat. I respectfully honor the one holding that seat. And I think the Republican Party, under the leadership of the proposed speaker, Kevin McCarthy, will be able to do that and work fairly and not cause any big ruckus. So I'll be focused on the island, and I think we'll be just fine with our Republican leadership.
As you've alluded to during this interview, the military buildup here is of key importance. What do you think Guam's geopolitical importance has it increased, and how can you leverage that?
The conversation is easier to have now with my new colleagues, and especially those senior members in these committees. The important part of the senior Republican members are now moving up in their authority within these committees, and Guam is already on their mind because they see the money flowing into Guam. Of course, we're hoping for a visit, and that's something we can look at down the line. But because of the Indo-Pacific region and the threat that we have here, our voice as a non-voting, or my voice as a non-voting delegate for the people of Guam, we have more of their ear, right? And they see the importance from the threats that we continue to receive from China and North Korea, and their increase in their military buildup, and what we must do to defend the nation, being Guam, part of the U.S. territory, and protecting the people of Guam. And that's why we had the buildup. If not that, for sure, China would look at us in a different possibility of gaining access to us, which we will prevent. Because no matter what, our nation is freedom, right? Our island has our freedom. We want a better relationship with the United States, and that's my duty to do that. So I think it's advantageous for Guam to have a representative being Republican and the majority in Senate being Republican at this point in history. So I think we should be fine. I really believe so, and I'm really hoping, which I've already been working closely with different senior congressmen over there. For example, Amara Radawagan from America Samoa, right? And Joanne Colon from Puerto Rico, and Kalili from CNMI as well. Just opening that communications better with the territories. I need to go meet Virgin Islands and of course Washington D.C. as well, so we can have this unity as territories when we speak together in Congress, right? Yeah. And with unity, then we have a stronger voice.
I wanted to shift the discussion now to local issues. Your relationship with Governor Leon Guerrero. I mean, it's been very respectful, but often contentious. How do you plan to work with Governor Leon Guerrero now in your new position as the delegate?
Right. Okay. You froze there, Nestor. Okay, you're back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can hear you now. So my term in the 35th and the 36th Guam legislature, I was a minority senator, and it's our duty to, of course, raise our voices that we get our point across. My duty now as a delegate is one single person that I believe the island of Guam is saying, okay, you're Republican, that's fine, just get the job done, right? No matter who's in charge in the executive office. I reached out to the governor, and we had a conversation shortly after the election, and we each congratulated one another. And basically, I haven't had the opportunity to meet personally with her at this point, but we are scheduling a meeting to sit down shake hands and moving forward. So I shall work with the governor, and I feel the confidence from the governor working with me, as well as the lieutenant governor and her cabinet, her staff. Right, I need to know from the staff and the clearinghouses which grants and where the money they need to increase, or how I can be their voice in DC to go to these departments and say thank you, or to say, hey, can you speed it up over there to your federal guys? We need this help over here. I would like to have also the ability, as these directors come out for their meetings, let's say it's for labor, let's say it's DPW, whoever the directors coming on out, and meeting with their federal counterpart, to sit down with them too, as initially in their meeting, to show the federal government that their congressperson is also involved with the directors appointed by the governor. So the more unity they see we have within our island, I think the more helpful they will be, to include, like, give a box of Guam chocolate macadamia nuts to say thank you for the $1 million grant that they gave to public health, whichever the case may be. So I'm looking forward to working closely with the governor and keeping that communications line open, as I've already started with Congresswoman Madeline Berdallo and her office there, and her connection that she, of course, did with Congressman Wilson, but also the connection that we started with the Guam Society of America, to allow them to come back in and working closely with me and listening to what they have to say, and also to have some great fiesta meals over there, so I can impress my fellow congressmen of how good Guam is. And the best way to do that is over some barbecue, red rice, and Benedetti and Kelligwin.
That's right. All right, we have to take one last break, but we'll be back to wrap up this show with Congressman-elect Jim Moylan right after this. All right, we're back. And Jim, we've only got about a minute or so left. I want to give you an opportunity to address the people of Guam and tell them what they should expect from you as you begin soon your very first term as the congressman for Guam.
Well, thank you, Nestor, and thank you to the people of Guam for giving me your vote of confidence to serve as your delegate in the 118th Congress in the United States. I'm looking forward to representing our island proudly and respectfully, and building that relationships to ensure that our relationship with the United States is even stronger than it has ever been before. As the time goes on, I will be continuously announcing the different accomplishments that we have done. I'll be very transparent. I'm looking forward to being on Nestor's show as much as possible, as well as all the other medias. And as soon as information comes about, I'll be sure to share that. And our doors will be open, of course, on January 3rd. We swear in. We would have an office in DC for those who are willing to travel that far and come and visit. I'll be happy to take you around. And then our district office will be opening as well. And once we finalize that information of phone numbers and locations, we'll be sure to share that with the public and our email addresses too. I'm super excited to have this opportunity. And I think with my really great staff that we have here going with us to DC, and those remaining here on Guam, you'll see the same energy that we displayed and the same force that we were going to be putting forward in the 35th and in the 36th Guam legislature. Nothing has changed about me. I may have to wear a thicker coat during the winter times in DC, but I'm still Jim from the island of Guam, just a local boy. Now my duty is to serve you in Washington, D.C. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to coming home as much as possible.
All right, Jim, thank you so much, and appreciate the transparency. And I think we look forward very much to speaking with you many, many more times in the coming years. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, and God bless Guam.
I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week on The Hub.